We, the mountain born, with spear and cunning.
Path of Exile 2's first major patch is finally here. In just a few days, the Dawn of the Hun update will be fully unveiled, and we'll get to see exactly what GGG have been cooking for the past 4 months. Now, there's likely to be a lot of new content in this patch. New classes, new ascendancies, new skills and support gems, new weapon types, new passive tree skills and keystones, new story acts, new crafting methods. Lots of fresh new content to play. And don't get me wrong, I'm excited for all of those new additions. But for me, that's not the most important part of this patch. Because this will be the first real opportunity that GGG has to address the state of the game. See, their original plan was to ship updates to Path of Exile 2's early access as and when they were needed, to address issues such as buggy interactions or over and undertuned mechanics. And to begin with, that's exactly what they did. They shipped several updates that fixed major bugs and toned down overperforming builds. However, the latter wasn't received particularly well. After all, many players follow creator builds, and so when a creator is towing the line between intended interaction and bug abuse, it's bound to end poorly, with a bunch of players left with a shell of a build and no good way to respec out of it. The solution here could have been to run a temporary reduction in gold respec costs while these volatile changes were being shipped. That way, although players may still be disappointed that their build had been squashed, they'd still be able to rescue the character rather than potentially having to re-roll a completely new one. After all, players should have the understanding that this is indeed early access and anything can change at any moment. But GGG didn't budge on this, and the changes seemingly became more and more poorly received over time, to the point where GGG made a big decision. They decided to go against their original plan to patch the game regularly during early access, and instead ship larger, League-style releases with all of the changes and new additions bundled together. They would now begin treating Path of Exile 2's early access as a complete product, just as they do with PoE1. But this change in the plans wasn't communicated directly to the players. Ridiculous, unbalanced mechanics such as Archmage, Herald of Ice, and Hand of Wisdom and Action were left unchecked. While the economy, well, yeah. But that was then, and we're here now, on the edge of the next big update. So the question for me then is, what exactly is Path of Exile 2 going to be post-patch 0.2.0 on April 4th? Right now, the game essentially feels like it's split into 2 parts. And if you hadn't played PoE2 before, you could even be forgiven for thinking that the campaign and the endgame are 2 entirely different games. You have the campaign with Acts 1 through 3 feeling much like what they have been presenting the game to be for years. A slower, more methodical gameplay with a focus on engaging boss fights. Then you have the cruel half of the campaign where the pace of the game starts to run away. This doesn't really concern me too much because the replacement of Cruel Acts with Acts 4 through 6 will likely fix this. But then you have the complete opposite in the endgame. The pacing is entirely lost at this point, characters are much faster and monsters are just ridiculous. You have white monsters dealing more damage than map bosses, and you're getting ragdolled all over the place by charging packs of monsters. Balance is completely out of whack, and right now we have no idea if this is actually what the endgame is meant to be or not. We simply don't know if Path of Exile 2 is intended to be Path of Exile 1.5, an upgraded version of the first game with system updates such as the new gem and socket system, a more refined onboarding experience, and a fresh start to quell the inevitable power creep. Or, as I expect, is Path of Exile 2's endgame supposed to be a lot more like what we've seen in all of the previews and demos over the past 5 years or so? Slower gameplay with an importance placed on skill combos and ultimately more meaningful combat as a result. At Exilecon 2023, developer Rory Rackham answered a question discussing character recovery and how players should be able to get hit by monsters to cause a moment of danger. Take a look.
In PoE1, the amount of consistent regen or other means of recovery means that enemies need to do huge bursts of damage to be able to kill you. Any changes to leech or recovery coming to PoE2 to combat that?
It's definitely something that we're letting be much more high cost to your character to have a high amount of regen. You should be able to feel like you can build a regenerative character, but it shouldn't be like, oh, everyone's getting 40% of their life per second, so we need to do at least 80% of their life per second as monster damage to be a real threat. So we're bringing the numbers down a bit so that you have more of a window to be worried after taking a big hit. And also flasks are slightly, well, they're rebalanced really, again, around boss fights as well to bring all that stuff to the point where the character has a window of being in big danger after taking a big hit, rather than having to instantly kill them with that big hit. There are still some one-shots, am I right, Mark?
I feel...
It's a really dodgeable attack that you should have avoided, maybe?
The philosophy of monsters dealing a bit less damage compared to in PoE1 to allow that window of danger to occur where a player needs to react to being hit is a good one. But this is simply not what we have right now in PoE2. The game is just as spiky as its predecessor in the endgame. So, truthfully, we don't really know which of these it's going to be. Is PoE2 going to be as fast as PoE1 in the endgame, or is it going to be the slower, more methodical game we've come to expect? Well, we'll have a very good idea by the time we receive the patch notes, likely immediately following the reveal on March 27th. Whether this gets addressed directly in the reveal, in the commentary, or in the Q&A with Ziggy D after is yet to be seen. But even if they don't immediately make their intentions known in the reveal, the patch notes should tell the story. For me, I'm not really pulling for either side. I'd be happy with a slower PoE2, like we've been shown over the years. I also think it makes more sense that way. But at the same time, I know I'd like the game if it was just as fast-paced as PoE1 as well. But ultimately, I just want to know which direction they want to go in. It feels like right now we're at a crossroads with PoE2, and patch 0.2.0 is about to go one way. But which one will it be? Let me know what you expect to see in Path of Exile 2 Dawn of the Hunt by commenting below. Thanks for watching this video, and as always, stay tuned and stay safe.